Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Leaders Building Leaders 2026. My name is Dylan Holoviak, and I have the privilege of introducing Miss Mandy Carlson here today. So she graduated from Union in the year of 2015, and she has had her career based on storytelling, leadership, and also communication in her job, which is very important for business. And on top of that, she also has a master's in healthcare administration, and she currently works as the director of communications for the Jefferson Center that is located in the great state of Colorado. So let's give a warm welcome to Miss Mandy.
Thank you, everybody, for having me here today. As you said, my name is Mandy Carlson, and I'm so pleased to be here. When Lisa asked me to do this a few months ago, I started thinking about what I wanted to talk about. Do I have some wise words to share? And then, as Dylan mentioned, I really love to tell stories, and so the best way that I feel I can help teach is by telling my own story. So I'm really excited to be here today to talk a little bit about that. So first, I want to introduce myself a little bit more. As you mentioned, I graduated from Union in 2015, but what is not included in that is I really actually grew up on this campus. Both of my parents worked here for about 15 years. So when I was young and I would finish up school across the street at CVA, I'd come across here, I'd play on the campus, I'd get yelled at by plant service for being on the grass, and I would have to come hang out in offices, and I often spent time just here on Union's campus, so I know a lot of the faculty and staff and have really just made Union my second home. I still currently have two family members working here. I have my mom and my brother, who's the athletic director as well, so I continue to have ties to Union, as well as numerous cousins and aunts and uncles and people that are part of Union. I'm a fifth generation graduate, so that is on my dad's side. On my mom's side, I'm a fourth generation, so Union really runs in my blood on both sides of the family. And most importantly to me, but maybe the most cheesy, is I married my college sweetheart. We met in 2011 when we both started here, graduated, and he is now in anesthesia school, graduating in 4 months. Outside of Union, I'm a proud cat mom of 2. You'll see them both here, and yes, they look as thrilled as they do to be taking a selfie with us on Christmas morning. I am a favorite auntie to 1 nephew and 2 nieces, and I'm the director of communications at Jefferson Center. And outside of all of this, I love to run, I love to hike, I love to read, but most importantly, I love to adventure. And that's where I talk a little bit more about here and what my story is going to base around. I've been to 49 states, 22 countries, and 5 continents. And it's really been a great learning opportunity to travel. So again, when Lisa asked me, I said, how can I really talk about my story, but use travel to build around it? So now that you've met me, I'm going to do just a little bit of learning about you. And we're going to start easy. So how many of you know what you're going to have for dinner tonight? Great, 3 people. Excellent. How many of you know what you're going to do this weekend? Great, okay, a few more people know what's going on this weekend. How many of you knew what you wanted to be when you were a kid? Ooh, a few people. 1 person knows what they wanted to. Well, that's my next question. What you wanted to be when you were a kid, are you on that track now, or did you end up in that role that you thought you were going to be in? And if not, what do you know, or do you know what you want to do now? Do you feel like you're on a certain track? And if you are, I'm really happy for you, because when I graduated 11 years ago, I was 100% certain I was going to be the VP of communications at Advent Health in Colorado, because I had heard somebody talk about it. I got really inspired and I was like, excellent, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. But I knew that it wouldn't be just my first job out of college. I thought it'd be simple. I thought I would go and get a job at one of the hospitals, and I'd slowly start working my way to that point. That did not happen. And I faced a lot of uncertainty in my journey. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And I'm going to share it using some metaphors of travel based on things that I have personally experienced both in travel and in my career. This is not an extensive list. I can guarantee you there are other types of uncertainty that you'll face, and there's really good opportunities to learn from each moment. So I'm going to talk a little bit about detours, when your destination is closed. I'm going to talk about when there's a fork in the road, roadblocks, and car troubles. And I like to move, but I'm sorry if I move in front of this. So first of all, I'm going to talk about detours. Detours are these moments when you're driving down a California interstate and you're having a good time, things are moving, then suddenly you look down at your GPS and there's this red line, and it just slowly starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and suddenly you have no idea what time you're gonna end up at your destination. So you decide to take a detour. You go on a little sidetrack to still get to your destination, but maybe go out of your way a little bit. This was my experience when I graduated. I didn't actually know what I was gonna do. I graduated without a job, and all I knew is that I wanted to move to Colorado and marry my husband. That was all I knew. So we packed up a little bit on a prayer and dream and pennies and said, it's gonna work out. We're gonna figure it out. And again, I was still really passionate about being in this communications role moving forward, and so I really wanted to work for that, but I didn't land my first communications role until 2022. Instead, I started at Target, which was great. I learned about really great project management. I learned how to be organized. I learned how to work with people in really frustrating situations. Then I moved to a small radio station called The Voice of Prophecy, where I was their donor communications lead. I worked there for about 10 years, or not 10 years, 10 months, sorry. And I learned a lot about logistics and planning and how do I work with people and stay organized. Then I moved to Advent Health and I was like, this is it. I'm on my way. I'm getting my foot in the door for the place that I really want to work. But I was their fundraising events coordinator. And so I oversaw 22 events, and I was doing logistics and planning and really getting people in the door to help fundraise for these organizations. While I was there, I was in my master's program. So when I finished my master's in 2020, I decided that I was going to go for an administrative fellowship and continue to expand my healthcare leadership opportunities. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. That didn't happen. So instead, I went to Family Service Association. So I was on this little detour, and I felt like the second I felt like I was back on track, I detoured again to Family Service Association, where I was the program director for a housing authority. And that didn't make sense for my career. I was suddenly into housing. I was managing case managers and a donation center and volunteers, and really just felt like I wasn't on track to communications. Where finally, 4 years ago, I ended up at Jefferson Center with my first full-time communications job as the manager of communications there. So this is just an overview, and I'm going to talk a little bit more into these because, again, these were just some detours along the way. But even the detours weren't straightforward or simple. One of the biggest things that happened in my life was when I came upon a closed destination. This is like when you're driving with your parents in Kentucky and going on a 2-week road trip. And back in the day, I'm gonna sound like a really old person, we didn't have GPS. We didn't have Google to tell us when things were open or closed. Instead, we used atlases. And we had a really cool atlas. We followed that all over the place. We used it to get where we were gonna go. But the thing that an atlas doesn't tell you is when some place is closed, especially if the atlas is 5 years old. So you roll up to a mall when you're hungry looking for some food, and it's completely boarded up. There's nobody there, and you have to decide, where do we go next? In my career, this happened, as I mentioned, when I graduated with my master's in healthcare administration. I was really excited because I was on that next step. I had my communications degree, I had my master's degree, and I had some good baseline experience, so I was ready for this administrative fellowship. But it was March 2020. We all know what happened in March 2020. The world shut down, COVID hit, and I got a phone call and they said, we may not be able to do this program. We're gonna close for 2 weeks. We'll give you a call and let you know what happens. So we kind of waited. 2 weeks later, I got another call. We had to close the program. We don't have the funding. We can't carry it through for the summer, so we're gonna have to close it. The problem is, this was in California. We were in Colorado. We had already closed our lease on our apartment. We had quit our jobs. Boxes were packed. We didn't know what to do. And so I called my parents, as I do, and I said, what do I do? Do we stay here? Do we move? And they said, just move out here. We'll figure it out. This is where you're going anyways. We'll figure it out. So it was really a moment where I had to sit in this really uncomfortable space of, I don't have a job again, and I don't know what I'm gonna do because now I'm off track all over again, and this place that I was really, really excited about is not an option anymore. So that led to my fork in the road. These are the moments for me when I'm driving in Colorado and I have to decide, do I go I-25 or do I go 470? They're both terrible options because there's traffic, there's crazy drivers, there's toll roads, just don't do it. But I have to choose where to go and how to get to there. And so this is when you have options. There's multiple paths that you can take. So after my fellowship closed, we moved with, again, kind of on faith and pennies, no idea what we were gonna do. My husband started travel nursing as an ICU nurse in California during the pandemic, and I was like, I'll figure it out. So I started applying again, and 2 opportunities came up, and my options were really exciting. One was for a communications job, and I was like, yes, we're finally there, it's gonna happen. And I started applying, and we went through the interview process, and they're like, okay, we have some things going on, we're gonna give you a call and let you know. And so in the meantime, I had been interviewing for this job at Family Service Association, but I was like, it's not what I want. It's a director role, yeah, but it's not communications. I don't get to tell stories. I don't get to be part of building communications. And I had a good offer there, and they had told me that I was wanted, but I really wanted this communications job, but it was not a guaranteed role. And so I had to make the decision, do I go for a guaranteed role that maybe can help me on my journey, or do I wait for something that I want a little bit more? And I took the surprising option of not choosing communications. I was told that there was maybe some opportunities and that maybe they would get back to me, and I finally decided that I really wanted to take a risk. So I moved to Family Service Association, where I learned leadership. I had 10 people reporting to me at a young age, and I had to learn how to work with the community. But most importantly, I really had to help people through challenging times on a broader scale, because we had whole communities greatly affected by the pandemic. So I had to figure out, how do we share out to these people what resources they have so that they can continue, whether it's housing or food pantry or clothing. Our jobs were really to support them through that, and I got to share those stories. So I started to realize, while communications may not have been in the title, it was certainly part of my job. Then there's some roadblocks. So in 2022, I finally got that communications job when we decided California was not for us. And we decided to move back to Colorado. And I was really excited because I was finally the manager of communications. I had 2 great team members working for me. We were moving and grooving, and we really felt like we had a really good vibe within Jefferson Center, and feeling like we were moving towards the direction, building on a lot of great work. And then roadblocks come up. Roadblocks, I talked a little bit about driving. But in Colorado in particular, there's this road called I-70. You use it to get to the mountains, which is great. But the one thing about I-70 is, you know, you are not going to get there in the time you think you will, because there's car accidents, car fires, wildlife on the road, mudslides, or just you and 10,000 of your best friends trying to make it to the ski resorts. No matter what, you will be going slow, and things will stop on I-70. So these roadblocks are the moments that something gets in your way and you don't have an option but to slowly work through it. And it might take time, might take effort, but it's gonna happen. My career roadblock was finally being at Jefferson Center, feeling like we were doing good things, when it was announced in 2023 that we were going to merge with another healthcare organization. And that is a terrifying word, merge, because are you gonna lose your role? Are you gonna lose your team? Are you gonna have to report to somebody different? These are all questions that are very unknown. And our team was tasked with not only figuring out, what does this new organization look like, but how do we bring 2,000 other people along with us in this journey and venture through that to help people from both this other organization and our own understand the whys behind it, understand how they're going to be impacted, and understand how that we can better serve the community as this bigger organization. So we worked for 9 months as a communications team really closely. We met every single day. We had huddles, we had reports, we had plans, we built ongoing communication strategies with our teams. We did a lot of work. We redid logos, we worked on our story, we had voice. And in July 2024, big announcement, we're not merging anymore. Excellent. 9 months that felt like down the drain of work, but also trust that we had built with our 2 organizations, with our teams, to help them understand, what are we doing? Why are we going this way? And now we had to redo that, but this time in reverse. And so there was a lot of kind of stopping and thinking, how do we realign on this? How do we make sure we're sharing the right message? But how do we really make people feel encouraged that, yes, these decisions were made and we don't have a hand in it, but there's still opportunities to continue moving forward. And the last one, car troubles. These are the moments where you're maybe on your 8th grade class trip. You're with a car full of people from Lincoln, Nebraska who don't know what a mountain is, and you start driving up over the mountain ranges to get to your class trip, and suddenly the car starts to overheat. And suddenly there's adults and students all up on the interstate pouring water on the engines to make sure that it cools down so that you can safely make it to the other side. These are the moments where you feel deflated, maybe frustrated. This happened to me very recently when in 2024, my boss announced that she was leaving. She was the current director of communications, but she had told me that for the past 2.5 years, my time at Jefferson Center, she was really training me to move into this director job. And I felt so excited and honored. I was like, great, I finally got this communications job and I get to continue growing and learning in it. So she had already recommended me for the job, and then after she left, I had a conversation with our chief and they said, yeah, we're restructuring, so we don't really think you're right for the job anymore. We don't think you have the experience. We don't think you have the knowledge to take on what we're asking you to do. And that hit me hard because I felt like I had dedicated a lot of good time to Jefferson Center. I'd managed this merger. We had worked through some really hard times with our staff, and I had good relationships with our other directors and staff. They trusted me. And so I felt like, why am I not the right person? And sometimes you just don't get those answers, and that's really hard in those moments. But for the next 4 months, I got to be the interim. I got to work and interview my potential new bosses and learn what are those opportunities and maybe how can I help this person better grow. We interviewed 12 people, and every person had something good about them, and we actually made 2 offers. Both people turned the offers down. And after 4 months of interviewing and exhaustion and just being like, why are we doing this? I went back to my current boss and said, why are we still interviewing people? I have done this job. I know I can do it. You've seen me follow through. And she said, yes, I agree. So it's those moments where you sometimes have to take the moment to be frustrated, but then kind of prove it. Say, I'm here for a reason. I can do this, and you can see that in me as well. So because of that, I did. I made it right now to the job of Director of Communications. And I say right now because my journey's not done. I may be in the role that I've been working for the past 11 years, but I know I'm not done. There's still a lot of uncertainty as we've recently gotten a new CEO. My team is changing. Our roles and expectations are changing. I still have uncertainty. So I don't know what's coming next, but I've learned how to face it a little bit more. Because I'm not one to just give you all this uncertainty and not give you ways to work through it. So you can prepare for uncertainty. You may not know what's coming. You may not feel like you can deal with it, but you can. I promise, I am proof, and I've dealt with it, not only just the past 10 years, but in my career and my life. So the first one is ask for directions. In the world of GPS and ChatGPT and all these things, it can be really easy to forget that human connection is the best way to get advice. My parents are here. I've talked about them. I've pointed them out. They're my number one go-to when I have help that I need. I will call them and be like, what do I do? And they will listen. They will ask me questions back about what my goals are, what do I want to see, and they'll push me because they know that I can make these decisions, but they'll be there for the advice and they'll be there for the support through it. I'll also go to my husband because he will look at me and be like, why are you asking me? You know the answer to this. And so he understands what I'm looking for. And so those directions are critical to have those people in your life that you can trust. It can be maybe a teacher you've connected with here. It can be a mentor. It can be a boss. It can be your parents. But it's really important to have those people to give you that trusted advice and walk through those moments with you. Number 2, I'm going to call out Sid because he's doing it. Take pictures. You'll see throughout this entire presentation, I've had pictures scattered throughout. These are all my own pictures from my memories, from my travels and adventures and vacations, but the pictures are the moments that kind of make you stop and look around and say, what do I want to remember from this moment? And you take it, then you use that picture to go back to that moment and remember and reminisce. So when you are going through life, take that moment. If you're in a moment of uncertainty, stop. Look around and say, what can I learn from this? What are opportunities that I might be missing because I'm just trying to get through it, instead of taking the opportunity to look at it as a whole. Number 3, bring friends. I said ask for directions, and sometimes these are the same people, but sometimes the friends are just the ones that help you get through. This is one of my favorite pictures because we decided a few years ago to pile 12 adults into a 15-passenger van and take a road trip. That is more chaotic than I think hurting children. But I recommend it because suddenly you're on this amazing road trip having the most fun, and they're the ones that maybe purposefully get lost with you or take you on those detours, but they're the ones that keep encouraging you through it and really give you that continued support. Number 4, enjoy the journey. I know it sounds cliche, I know it sounds like something everybody's gonna tell you, but sometimes just leaning back and leaning into the uncertainty is what makes it the most exciting, because you can look around, you can enjoy the side roads and the detours, because you never know what you're going to find on those journeys. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what opportunities, again, you'll look back in and see, but I learned so much from that. Whether it's leadership skills, whether it's communication, whether it's making connections and networking. Never take those opportunities or those moments for granted, because they are what build you into a better person and a better leader. And number 5, get snacks. This one, I'm gonna be honest, is not deep. Whether you're on a life journey, whether you're uncertain, the best advice is don't be hangry. Feed yourself, always have food, and make sure that you feel ready and prepared for that next step. So that's me. As I said, I'm still facing a lot of uncertainty in my life, but in the past 10 years, I feel like I've learned a lot from it, and I'm less scared of it because of the people around me, because of my experiences here at Union, all the lovely people that came to support me, and the people that are coming after me. You all have so much to learn and so many opportunities, and just don't take them for granted, because there are so many moments in these uncertainties that make you who you are and might get you invited back to speak at Leaders Building Leaders. So if anybody has any questions, or as I call them, travel tips, I'm here to take some questions now. Yeah.
So you mentioned taking on that job, those 2 options you took, and having that anxiety that comes with taking that position that you weren't necessarily like shooting for. Did you deal with a level of imposter syndrome, and how did you combat that, like on an emotional level, and just like constantly, going to work and being like, oh my gosh, did I make the right decision? Because I think sometimes when we find ourselves in those seasons where we're like waiting, or we're taking those detours, we have that imposter syndrome. So how do you like combat that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I still deal with that. Even as a director, I'm like, why am I here? Why did they choose me? But that's kind of it, right? Yeah. They chose you. You're here, whatever that reason is. And so I always think about, I got here. Clearly, I made it in some ways, but also I do kind of like to continue learning from that. So I'm like, maybe what am I not feeling confident in that I can grow? So in that case in particular, I knew nothing about housing and rental assistance and running a donation center. I knew nothing about that, and yet I still got hired because of something. And so I took those opportunities to say, then what do I feel like I need to grow to feel more confident in this role? So I'm a learner, and that is a big part of who I am too. So I took those opportunities to learn, whether it was conversations with other people that had also done it, whether it was talking with my bosses saying, I'm not sure how to navigate this, what are some opportunities for this? Or I would research and read and say, what are other places doing similar to this? And how can I take that and make it fit for our organization? So I really think it's, first of all, acknowledging that it's really hard to feel like you don't belong or that you somehow made it there by accident. But that's how, when you have the opportunity to learn and grow and say, but I am here. So how can I just build those skills to continue improving on it? Brenda.
So part of your role is remote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about how that works being a director when you're not in the office full time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question is, I do work 90% remote. I go in about once a week for my job, which is great. I love it because I get more stuff done. I get to hang out with my cats at work all day. It's incredible. And connection can be really hard because of that. And so when I do go in, I try to have my one-on-one meetings in person because that's where I really get that connection. But we've also started building out some opportunities for other people to connect, because our team also has 5 people that are remote out of state. So they don't even have the option to come in and have those one-on-one meetings. And so we've started doing virtual hour hangs once a month. But we, as the directors, are not planning it. We've given that off to our teams and said, you plan it. You want to connect, you take that responsibility. And so that has been really effective as well. And I find it's just also not letting digital get in the way of being digital. And so making time to connect at the beginning of meetings still, maybe sending a chat question to people. People at our organization love the furry animals, any and all of them. So we are often asking about each other's pets or what people did. And so really just taking that brief opportunity. And then when it comes to actually having to be in those lead roles, my team is actually very engaged in the internal communication side of it. And so we try to come up with how do we stay connected and help people feel connected to decisions that are being made. So I write a weekly message from our CEO about things that have happened over the week, or decisions or highlights from our teams, so that we connect across the organization and not even just within our team, but help people from across the way feel connected. Yeah.
Say if somebody is applying for a job and they feel a lot of uncertainty in it, how do they know the difference between them just overthinking it rather than saying, okay, this is a sign that this is not for me?
That's a great question, because when I was talking about those kind of fork in the roads, I did not feel good when I accepted the family service job, because I was really sad about missing out on the opportunity for communications work. I don't know if you can ever fully know that, and I'll be the first person to say part of uncertainty is just admitting that you don't know. But I think you'll know if you're feeling nervous versus like it's not the right fit. And you will know that based on conversations that you have in the interviews. You'll know that based on kind of your own goals and things that you want. And admittedly, again, sometimes a job is a job. I worked at Target for a summer, and it was necessary. I didn't necessarily want to work at Target, but the things I learned there, there's always opportunity to learn. There's always skills you can grow. There's always networking you can do. I've reconnected with a ton of people here that I met, whether in internships or in conversation, that I was like, hey, we have the same thing and we can connect. The opportunities are there. And so I think it's kind of taking that risk and saying, I don't know, but I'm going to try, because you know that you can do it. Mom?
Well, I'm curious, when you got your director job, how long did you take to kind of say, okay, this is now my role, and what do I want it to look like? And then did you implement anything new?
Good question. So I still feel like I'm making that transition, and part of it is because when I did move into my director role, we didn't rehire for a manager. I made that choice to instead promote my team along with me, and so I didn't rehire someone, so I still can feel like I carry the manager role at times in addition to the director role. Yes, I did implement new things, and a lot of them dealt with broader communications around the center. And that was really because people felt like, yeah, we hear things, but we don't actually feel connected to the decisions and what's going on. And so that's why we do these weekly Friday messages from our CEO. Those are pieces that I write, but they are really important and people feel connected to it. They get to celebrate their teams. They get to hear from the CEO directly. We also restructured our town hall. Before it was very much let's just talk about all the things, and now it's a very structured report out of these are challenges we're facing, here's what we're doing. We talk about our finances a little more openly, which is scary sometimes for leadership, but it's important for everybody to understand what you're facing as an organization. So we did that, And like I said, I gave my team a little bit more leeway and said, what do you want to see? How do you envision yourselves growing in this role? Because I didn't just promote you to promote you. I did it because I see your potential and your opportunities to grow your own expertise. So they came up with some new things. They've dived into paid advertising. They've started writing thought leadership. And so when you also make those moves, I think it's important to help the people that supported you make that move as well, because I could not be in a director role without my team. They are the most incredible guys that I work with, and so I want to see them grow as much as I want to see my own career growth. Yeah?
Yeah, just like a follow-up, you mentioned working with teams. Obviously, as a director, I can imagine there's so many people that you collaborate with. In those times where you find yourselves working with individuals who are not being a team player, even going as far to say, there's definitely things out there where maybe their work ethic that you struggle to collaborate with. How do you combat those, just those feelings, I guess, and just those personal feelings as well, and still trying to be an effective team player and leader?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So on our director team, we have about 30 directors across our organization that I partner with on a regular basis to talk about their each individual organizations. And the way I like to come at it with them especially is I will say, I'm the marketing and communications expert, but you are the expert in your role. So how can we collaborate on that? Because yes, I know how to run social media and build a website and talk to internal and external folks about this, but I don't know the details of your program. I don't know how you operate on a daily basis. So you help educate me, and then we can partner and come up with those good ways. And it takes work. There have been a couple directors where I have to have, it's been 6 months of relationship building to get to the point where they finally see the value of communications versus them just kind of like going and doing their things, but the importance of having that shared brand and that shared destination and goal to reach it. So it's work, it really is. And so a lot of it is one-on-one time with them. I do spend time in meetings saying like, what are you working on? What are some challenges? What are some wins? What are opportunities? And it's kind of those basic questions, but sometimes you gotta start with the basics to get that foundation. Yeah.
How do you stay confident in your direction when things aren't going as planned?
How do I stay confident? Oh, I have practiced my stage smile for years. But besides that, there's a lot of power in transparency and honesty. And so if I am sometimes not confident, I definitely go to some trusted people and say, what do I do? How do you get that advice? But then sometimes I'll be honest with my team. And not necessarily just break down in front of them, but say, hey, I don't know what's coming right now, but we've made it, and I usually look to the past and say, but we've made it through these things together, and so we're gonna keep moving forward. We're gonna kind of keep our plan together. That's the best thing, kind of sticking to, if you can, stick to your plan, because that's a direction that you set. You know that things will work because of past experiences. And it is sometimes just having those honest conversations of things may not work, and like in those merger conversations, we often used, as the communications team, we often use the first 15 minutes as just kind of a, okay, here's what we're frustrated about, here's what we're really not sure about, we don't know what else to do, and then we would kind of hit the ground running, because especially in communications, people look to you as the face of the organization and kind of the source of truth. And so a lot of how you represent is how people will react. So if you act very stressed and angry and frustrated, your team starts to feel that way. But if you say, hey, we're gonna do this, we may not know, but we can, and we're gonna work through it, and if we have to pivot, we can do that. You just kind of do it, and you do it knowing that you're in that role to help them through it for a reason. Any other questions? Yeah?
Did you enjoy your career right away, or did that take some more time?
So this is definitely a personal question for me. I will throw myself fully into anything that I do. I don't like to do it halfway or anything. And so while like Target was not the best experience, I tried to make really good friends. I tried to make it a positive experience, and I tried to use that as a networking opportunity. So while it may not have been something that I loved, I did enjoy it because I always tried to look for that learning opportunity. And it gets you far. The more that you say, I may not love the moment that I'm in, but there's something to gain from it in the long term, it's worth it. Any other questions? Great. Well, yeah. Thank you all so much. I think Dylan has a few closing, but thank you so much for having me back. I love Union. I love seeing these familiar faces in here and finally getting to turn the tables and call on my parents as they sit here. But if you do want to connect, my email's up here, my LinkedIn is up here. I would love to connect with you all. Thank you so much. And for those of you who are still here as students, best of luck. I know you're going to do wonderful things. Union really produces the best leaders. I've seen it not only in my own journey, but for the people that have been leaders to me as well. So congratulations to how far you've made it.
Well, thank you so much, Mandy. I know uncertainty is something that we all deal with at some point, so thank you so much. Here is a small gift from the business program, so thank you so much. Our next event is at 10 o'clock, so you all can have some time to do some networking in the networking lounge, and there's also snacks and hot beverages and bagels, and so, yeah, you're all dismissed. Thank you.